Hey, third graders, we are back with another shared read. This story is called The Dream Catcher. We're going to be working in our companion books, and as we read, we're going to be answering the questions along the side and marking text evidence in the different paragraphs. So make sure that you have your companion book and a pencil, and you're going to want to open up to page 36. That's where the story starts. If you need a minute to grab your materials, you can pause this video and press play again when you have everything ready. Let's start our reading by listening to the summary to help us get some background knowledge about what we're going to be reading. We're going to listen to it in English first and then in Spanish. Let's give it a listen.
The Dreamcatcher. This story is realistic fiction. Peter lives with his grandmother. They are Native Americans. One day, Peter tells his grandmother he has to give a presentation about a family tradition. For his project, he shows his class how to make dream catchers. He is very happy and proud of his culture.
Now let's listen to it in Spanish.
El atrapador de sueños. Este cuento es una ficción realista. Peter vive con su abuela. Son nativos norteamericanos. Un día, Peter le dice a su abuela que tiene que hacer una presentación sobre una tradición familiar. Para su proyecto, muestra a sus compañeros de clase cómo hacer un atrapador de sueños. Se siente muy feliz y orgulloso de su cultura.
All right. So the summary told us a little bit about our main character, Peter. So let's take a look at the essential question. The essential question for this week is, what can traditions teach you about cultures? Read how Peter learns about his culture. All right, boys and girls, let's get started by digging into our text. We're going to listen to it first and then answer the questions on the side.
Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. "What's wrong, Bayan?" said Peter's grandmother. Bayan was Peter's Ojibwe name. He called his grandmother Nokomis. Peter looked up. "I have to give a presentation where I talk about a family tradition. I know we have lots of beliefs and customs. Can you remind me of one?" Nokomis smiled and nodded her head. "Come with me," she said.
All right. So our questions on the side start with find text evidence. And like I said last time, really small here, it tells us where we can search for that text evidence. It says paragraphs 1 and 2. Just to refresh our memories, every time there is a group of sentences, it could be one group of one sentence or several sentences. If there is a large space at the start of the sentence, this is called an indent. This large indent space means that this is a start of a new paragraph. So we could go through and we could number all of our paragraphs. Let's see if we can get those numbered. One. Oh, here's another indent. 2. Here's another indent. 3. Oh, that's a squiggly look at 3. 4 and 5. Each of these has a large indent in the front of the sentence that indicates a new paragraph. Now we can quick and easily find which paragraph we need to look in. For this question, it's going to focus on sequencing, which is the order of events. The question is, What happens after Peter gets home from school? Let's reread to find our answer. Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks, and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. What's wrong, Binyan? Said Peter's grandmother.
Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks, and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. What's wrong, Bayan? Said Peter's grandmother. Bayan.
Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks, and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. What's wrong, Bayan? Said Peter's grandmother. Bayan was Peter's Ojibwe name. Oh my God.
Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks, and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. What's wrong, Bayan? Said Peter's grandmother. Bayan was Peter's Ojibwe name. He called his grandmother Nikomis. Peter looked up. I have to give a presentation where I talk about a family tradition. I know we have lots of beliefs and customs. Can you remind me of one? Nikomis smiled and nodded her head. Come with me, she said.
Peter walked home from school. Salty tears ran down his cheeks, and his stomach hurt. He didn't know what to do. Grandmother was waiting for him on the front porch. What's wrong, Bayan? Said Peter's grandmother. Bayan was Peter's Ojibwe name. He called his grandmother Nokimis. So the question, what happens after Peter gets home, is he's obviously upset. So Peter's grandmother asked him what's wrong. She asked him why he's upset. So let's circle that text evidence. And it's in paragraph 2. What's wrong, Bayan? Said Peter's grandmother. So then we're going to type in our answer here. So we're going to say his grandmother asks him why he's upset. Go ahead and write that in your book on the line. His grandmother asks him why he's upset. The next part says circle text evidence that supports your answer, and we did that already. The next question is for paragraphs 3, and there's this dash, so that means through 5. So 3 through 5, so all of these, okay? The question is about dialogue. Now, dialogue is the words that the characters are saying. Dialogue in a story is shown with these little marks at the beginning of the sentence, and then when they're done speaking, they close that speaking part with these marks at the end of the sentence. These are called quotation marks, okay? Some people like to call them talking marks. This question is about dialogue. Dialogue is the talking parts of the characters in the story. So when you look through these paragraphs, you can easily see the talking parts of the character by seeing these two little lines at the start of what they're saying, and then again at the end of what they're saying. We call these two little marks at the beginning and end of what the character is talking, we call them quotation marks. So when I see here, I see it says Peter looked up, and then here are Peter's words. I have to give a presentation where I talk about a family's tradition. I know we have lots of beliefs and customs. Can you remind me of them? And then there's the end quotation. So these are all of Peter's words. Then if you skip down here to paragraph 5, we see some more dialogue. It says, "Come with me," she said. And when it says she said, that's referring to his grandmother. So when I'm looking at this question, it says, underline why Peter is upset, and we're looking at dialogue. We have all of this dialogue right here that we can underline. I have to, let me put my underlining tool on. I have to give a presentation where I talk about family traditions. So that is why he's upset, because he has to give a presentation. Now we're going to type our answer in the box. We have our text evidence underlined. Now we're going to write in our answer. He asks Nokomis to remind him of a family tradition. So then the question asks, so then there's a second part to this, and it says, what does he ask Nokomis? So he asks her for So there's a second part to this, and it says, what does he ask Nokomis? And what he asks is if she can remind him of any of these traditions that they have. So we're going to write on the lines, we're going to write our answer. He asked Nokomis to remind him of a family tradition. So go ahead and write that on the line. He asks Nokomis to remind him of a family tradition. When you're done writing that, you can turn to the next page. Now we're working on page 38. Let's listen to the story, and then we'll answer the questions along the side.
Peter followed Nokomis. She went to a closet and stretched to reach the top shelf. She pulled out a small box and blew away the dust. She handed it to Peter. "Open it," she said. Peter opened the box. He spotted a wooden hoop inside. It was in the shape of a circle. String was woven and twisted around the hoop. It looked like a spider web. A black bead sat near the center. Feathers hung from the bottom. Peter wiped away his tears and smiled.
All right, so let's answer these questions. The first one is going to be in paragraphs 1 and 2. So that's here and here. You can number these paragraphs if you would like. So the question is about sequencing, so order of events again. It says, what does Nokomis do to help Peter with his problem?
Peter followed Nokomis. She went to a closet and
All right, so let's answer the questions along the side here. We're going to be answering and finding text evidence like we just did. This question is going to be sought for. This question is going to focus on paragraphs 1 and 2. So you can go through and number those. Paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4. The question says, what does Nokomis do to help Peter with his problem? So I'm going to reread to find that answer. Peter followed Nokomis. She went to a closet and searched. Peter followed Nokomis. She went to a closet and stretched to reach the top shelf. She pulled out a small box and blew away the dust. She handed it to Peter. Open it, she said. So it looks like she's helping him by getting a box. There's something in it, and she tells him to open it. So I am going to write that as my answer. I'm going to say she gives him a box and tells him to open it. Go ahead and write that on the line. Next, it says circle text evidence. So I know this is the answer because I can find evidence to support my thoughts here. So I'm going to get my circling tool out and circle this part here. It says she pulled out a small box. I'm going to circle that. And I'm also going to circle this part. She handed it to Peter and she told him to open it. So I'm going to circle that too. Go ahead and circle those two parts of this text. The next piece says that we're going to look for our answers in paragraphs 3 and 4. 3 and 4. And we're going to visualize. Remember, when the author uses words to help us imagine the words in our minds like a mind movie. So it says, underline details that help you look. So it says, underline details that help you picture what the dream catcher looks like. So in the text, so let's go back and reread and see if we can find any of those words that help us visualize what it looks like. Peter opened the box. He spotted a wooden hoop inside. It was the shape of a circle. String was woven and twisted around the hoop. It looks like a spider web. A black bead sat near the center. Feathers hung from the bottom. Peter wiped away his tears and smiled. So this whole paragraph here gives us very detailed description of what this dream catcher looks like. But to really give us an idea of how these strings are all entwined, the author does this really cool thing where he talks about the strings looking like a spider web. And that's really helping me to visualize these different strings and how they're woven in and out of each other. So I'm going to underline this sentence where it says, it looked like a spider web as my evidence for visualizing. The next part says illustrations. Now, boys and girls, the illustrations are the pictures in the text. So it says, write one detail. The illustration shows that isn't in the text. So just like I said, this has a lot of information. What is one thing that is in this illustration that's not in the text? I want you to think about that a second. The one thing I could think about is the blue, white, and brown beads and how there's smaller hoops. So it talks about the big wooden hoop and the string and things like that, but it doesn't talk about these little hoops with these little different color beads. So that's what I'm going to write in my answer. If you have something different, that's fine. Or you can use this as your answer as well. So I'm going to say the blue, comma, white, comma, and brown beads inside the small hoops. So I'm saying the blue, white, and brown beads inside the small hoops. All right, boys and girls, we are going to pause our reading of the story today, and we will pick up again tomorrow by finishing the story. I'm really excited to see how he uses this dream catcher to share about his culture in school. I look forward to seeing you guys back tomorrow. I hope you guys are anxious to come back tomorrow and hear the rest of the story. All right, boys and girls, bye for now.